a needle, a huge needle, this big, shoved into my...
Don't go down. Beck's Grove.
Honestly, yeah. We should have died. And our family were like, oh yeah, do everything in the light, but there was so much that went on in the dark. Seeing cows.
There were no cows.
There were no cows. He had body parts in his jars. I thought I was having seizures, but no one believed me.
Mm-hmm.
No one took me seriously. No. Gonna kind of detail a few more of my health issues.
Which you got healed from.
Which I did get healed from. I absolutely 100% did.
And we are intentionally using the word healed versus cured.
Yes. Because I was not cured.
You didn't use medical means.
I tried using medical means and they failed. And also, talking more about medical neglect.
What even is that? Because I didn't even know what that was before we learned about all this stuff.
I have definitions. Before I get any further, before I give the definition of medical neglect, please select the subscribe. No, please hit the subscribe button. Getting tongue-tied.
It's 1:47 in the morning.
1:47 in the morning. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of the next episodes, because I think we've determined there's going to be a total of 18.
Right.
So.
And if you like the video and it resonates with you at all, or you feel bad for everything that Haley had to go through, hit the like button. And if you hate that we're saying this, go ahead and hit the dislike button too, because we really appreciate the dislike.
Oh, yes.
That actually helps us in the algorithm as well.
Medical neglect. And it took me some time to actually, because I thought it was just, I thought the term was medical abuse. I've heard of that one. I had not heard of medical neglect, but in looking at medical abuse, I was like, this doesn't fit. Okay. There's I think Munchausen syndrome, where the parent intentionally makes their kid sick.
Oh, yeah.
So, or in the Sixth Sense.
Right. I'm feeling much better now.
Yeah, so that's more medical abuse. Medical neglect, by definition, this is lawinsider.com, states that medical neglect means the failure to provide or the failure to allow needed care as recommended by a healthcare practitioner for a physical injury, illness, medical condition, mental health condition, or impairment, or the failure to seek timely and appropriate medical mental health care for a serious mental health problem that a reasonable person would have recognized as requiring professional medical mental health attention. Mm-hmm. To be fair, I want to preface this by saying that when stitches were necessary, they were obtained. When it was pretty obvious, someone needed 17 stitches in their calf one time. We've already detailed how one sibling needed 17 stitches to put their finger back together. There was another sibling who fell off a bunk bed and required stitches on the back of their head because they had a gash, gaping wound. So someone's bleeding out.
Too hard to ignore.
My dad got third-degree burns on his legs.
Because he was just splashing
gasoline. He used gasoline to light a fire, stood too close, it exploded, and he burned both his legs. We have pictures. It was really gross, and it was really bad. And he endured a lot of, he had to go to therapy, and it was, he was in a lot of pain for a long time because of that. But so when it was absolutely 100%, definitely necessary, someone was going to die unless they had medical treatment, then it was given, for the most part. Some instances seemed more like a gray area. So, for example, there was one time in 2007, a toddler. We were in another state. Dad was not with us. He was home remodeling the house. And we were supposed to be traveling back to Indiana that day. And the 2-year-old at the time was standing up, and they got knocked off their feet and fell backward onto concrete.
In the parking lot?
On the driveway.
Oh,
it was we were staying at a family's house, right. And it was in their driveway. He had a giant knot on the back of his head. It was the size of a. It was really big. They decided not to take him to the doctor. In the car driving back to Indiana, the kid is hallucinating, seeing cows.
But there were no cows.
There were no cows. He's throwing up
Throwing up.
He's throwing up in the car.
That's a telltale sign.
That's the signs. Those are the signs of a severe concussion, possible brain damage, and you need to take your kid to the doctor immediately. That's what they all say. They're
Which
like,
is another important service that doctors provide is they can diagnose you when you can't necessarily diagnose yourself.
yeah. Sometimes it's hard. I mean, yes, it's helpful to learn that. Like we've come to recognize, like, it is good to have some first aid training as a parent, so that in the event that you're not able to get to the doctor right away, you can treat it. And
Yeah, we've been let down by doctors so much. And not just let down, but they've kind of
traumatized our children
Yeah.
many times. I just remember the sibling, look, cows, and he was slurring his words, like he was not talking normally. It was really, really scary. And yet we kept driving home. I was like, Mom, should we take him to the hospital? No, he'll be fine. His personality completely changed after that. Wow. He was a calm and chill child. And after that, it was like he had no control over his body whatsoever. He was wild. He was loud. He was chaotic.
And that's not just you.
No,
Because
everyone saw
he was-
his personality switched overnight.
He was given a nickname in accordance with
Yes, he was not the same child. And they say if you have a personality change, that is like
Part of your
due
brain was
to part of
permanently
your brain
damaged.
is damaged. So there was that. That's a pretty blatant, really bad. And I understand, like, to some extent, I kind of get it. You're in a different state, okay? However, when my mom had severe kidney infections when we were vacationing in Florida, you better believe we went to the doctor. We went to the doctor then because you don't mess with kidney infections. They can kill you.
Brain damage, kind of serious. Head
I'm just
injuries
saying.
can kind of kill you.
Just saying. There
Right,
was...
if some kind of internal bleeding, brain was gonna shut down. You didn't know.
There was no way to know. There's no way. You can't know that from that. I don't know if anyone checked his pupils. I don't
Definitely
know.
fortunate it wasn't worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, today, that person is probably one of the smartest ones in the family, ironically. Another instance was years later, a different toddler who had a very high fever. I'm pretty sure it was 104. That's when you take them to the hospital, okay? Again, that is when you take them to the hospital. Kid was talking out of his head all night long.
Well, your family didn't really believe in medicine, right? Giving them medicine that could keep the fever down. So probably wouldn't have even gotten that high if they'd given them. I don't remember what's baby ibuprofen called. What's it?
Motrin.
Motrin.
Baby, yeah, that's Motrin. Here's the thing. We took...
Which obviously it's not good to give your kid a lot of that medicine, but
No,
there's
but
a
we
time and
took
a place.
painkillers for our period cramps.
Oh, geez. Seems extreme.
So talk about double stand. Well, they were really, really severe.
Because I know that's like you had a really tough time giving our kids Motrin because the way you were raised.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's just give them Motrin so that they can sleep.
There's a time and a place for it.
What's best for them, you want to talk about natural, what's best for them getting over their illness is to sleep. And if they're so uncomfortable and so sick and so such a high fever, they can't sleep.
To some extent, there is your body does burn out the infection if it's at a comfortable range.
Right. Also, being able to sleep.
Being able to sleep. If they're not able to sleep, you kind of have to do whatever it takes to help them sleep.
It might take them a little bit longer to get over it, but they're not going to be as miserable. I think that's a healthy trade-off.
Yeah, I would rather. Yeah, I have no issue giving the kids Motrin now.
I'm sure. Yeah, we have to be very careful to get how much we give them. We give them very small amounts.
Yeah, I'm not saying every time they get a fever, boom,
it's
here's
like
some medicine.
It's like only when it's really bad.
Yeah, only when it's yes, and when it's necessary for the benefit of the child. So this was so messed up because at the time I was sleeping, and for whatever reason I was sleeping on the pull-out hide-a-bed in the living room. I can't remember if this was one of the times I had Lyme or whatever. Anyway, Mom was sleeping next to me, okay? She is sleeping. The child is in between us, delirious as all get out, tossing and turning, talking out of his head, extremely hot. I'm freaking out. And I'm like, we should take this kid to the hospital. Even I recognize this. No. Thankfully, I think he was okay. I don't know. That same child now has severe mental health issues. I don't know if that's related, but probably not. But that's probably a stretch. But again, I got taken to the ER for like sprained ankles. Now, my feet would swell up, like they would get black and blue.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, maybe. Yeah. Make sure that nothing's broken.
Rule out a hairline fracture. Because
Yeah,
there was a couple times, like, I think I did have a hairline fracture once. And so, but I got special treatment. Because I was a golden child. But the other kids didn't get the same treatment. But yeah, there was a lot of injuries that happened, because I think we detailed in the previous episode 8 where safety was not. So there was constant, one kid cut themselves with a hoe. So they didn't know how to use the garden hoe the right way. So they ended up with a huge gash in their foot. I don't think she got stitches though. Another kid literally dropped a pitchfork through his foot. And he did have to get a tetanus shot for that one.
Yeah, no one. There's a lot of siblings in my family. There's 7 of us, and no one got any injury someone got. It was just because it was like a freak accident.
Multiple broken bones,
arms. Like I had no severe. I had one time I slipped and fell and I hit my head and I had to get stitches. So again, kind of a freak accident.
I heard that was because you were excited about the chicken wings that was on the counter.
Yes. Let's not go into that story. We don't need to go into that.
That's an adorable story, though. I love hearing that story.
It's embarrassing. But
I heard that at the KP retreat.
It was my fault. It wasn't because my parents had put me in a dangerous situation and I didn't know how to use the machinery or the tools I was given. And the only other time I had a serious injury was a football injury, playing football. Otherwise, I've still never broken a bone.
I technically have not broken anything. I mean, my nose.
Unless you count the knee injury. But.
I was never taken to the doctor for my nose because they were like, oh, whatever. Your nose is fine.
But yeah, all my other siblings, they haven't really had any serious injuries, or the ones that were just like, accidents that happen in life.
So again, my mom was the one diagnosing us too. She would diagnose things like, you're having this problem, it's because of a food problem. You're allergic to this, you're allergic to that. You need to stop eating this food. Stop eating soy. Stop eating corn. Corn is the big Monsanto and everything. They're buying
just
up
from
everything.
What? Reading articles online?
Yes. Reading articles online, and correlation equals causation. There was one time me and another sibling had a very severe stomach flu. And our stomachs hurt so bad. So her solution to help us was first she gave us baking soda. 5 minutes later, that's not working.
So basically thinking you just had an acid problem, because that would be
something. We had a really...
That's how you would neutralize acid. That's like taking an acid.
But then, 10 minutes later, she has us take apple cider vinegar. When you combine those two things, it bubbles up and creates an explosion.
Like Coke and Mentos.
Yes. And that's the kind of chemical reaction that was going on inside of our stomachs. And we're writhing on the floor in pain. And she's laughing at us. I mean, she was like, I'm sorry. But she's like...
I would not laugh.
Laughing at us because she's like, oh... I just realized what's going on. It's like, could you not have made that connection before you gave me the freaking chemical concoction?
Yeah, I mean, a few times our children have been in serious pain, like when the one doctor was trying to take the staples out, and that was like traumatizing for me. And like I was fighting to not just break down and sob, seeing them in that much pain. I couldn't imagine laughing.
There's many more. But those are just a few instances of medical neglect. And part of the reason for it was they took a risk. We lived 45 minutes away from the hospital. It was faster to go make the drive yourself than call an ambulance. Never call the ambulance. And... there was the automatic $1,000 emergency room fee. because for the longest time we didn't have a primary care physician that we could just call and go to. So that was one of the reasons. So it was always a risk.
Yeah, but still, it's like your child's kind of more important than money, right? Should be. And as we found out, you can get away with not having health insurance and you're going to be okay. You can still go and use the hospital.
Yeah, it's not what they paint in the media, like they're going to refuse care.
They have to give you care.
They have to give you care, and they have self-pay options. My gosh, people are so uneducated about this. So there was a lot of like, I was always kind of a sickly kid. I got sick a ton. And we always just kind of chalked it up to the fact that I was a preemie, which is weird because other preemies don't have the same health issues. But like, I would get sick a lot. Like, I was susceptible to anything and everything. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've had bronchitis. Part of that was the wood stove. The respiratory illnesses that we all got was because we used a wood-burning stove, which does coat your lungs with little shards of metal and causes an increase of respiratory illnesses.
I can't think of a time anyone in my family got bronchitis. Maybe like one time, unless I'm confusing it with pneumonia. But yeah, I hadn't really heard of anyone getting bronchitis. First time I heard like of someone having bronchitis, it was from the ain't nobody got time for that.
Smoke got me. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, it was very common for in your family. Oh, I have, because when I heard you had bronchitis one time, I like thought that was really serious. Like, whoa,
yeah,
I never heard of someone getting that. That sounds really bad. I thought.
Yeah, I just thought of another. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was done.
I was gonna say another instance of medical neglect. Was when I was told I was diagnosed with all my Lyme, and was told if I got sick within the next 4 months, it could kill me.
That's what your doctor told you.
Yes. I still had to leave the house.
Because Lyme disease destroys your immune system.
I had no immune system. My whole body was shutting down. All of my systems were shutting down. Everything.
Still took you out of the house because why? Where'd you go? Church?
Church, singing.
Image is important. Status is important.
Which we covered in the last episode. And I did get sick, and I almost freaking died. I ended up with bronchitis during that 4-month period. And it almost took me out. Like, I was really, really sick. Did I go to the hospital? No. Did I go get anything? No. I've had pleurisy, like, I don't know how many times.
I don't even know what that is.
It's the lining of your lung. I know because I've had it so many times.
I've learned so many diseases I didn't know about. Like, what the heck is croup? I've never heard of that before.
Sibling almost died from croup.
So many, like, outdated diseases that your family would get.
Yeah, and it wasn't because we weren't vaccinated, because technically I was vaccinated and I still got a ton of stuff, which Mom was like, oh, we always noticed your immune system is weaker than the rest of them. Us 4 older ones, but that's arguably untrue now.
Yeah.
Everybody's falling apart. So
yeah, because I know people that have not been vaccinated and they don't get sick.
Well, they were saying, the sicknesses hit you guys harder than it does the younger ones who weren't.
I was vaccinated when I was a kid.
And yet, whenever we get sick, you don't get sick as badly as I do. Except that one time.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know what that was.
Well, that was that one.
To preface all these health issues that, I just thought were normal, just thought, I'm just a sickly person. In 2011, I decided to pray and give my body to God at the age of 16. And it was largely in part due to when this came out about, I don't know, did you ever hear about the doctor Kermit Gosnell?
Oh, yeah, he was killing a bunch of babies.
They called him a serial killer.
Oh, you got arrested, right?
Oh, yeah, he went to jail for sure. Yeah, he had body parts in his jars of baby feet in his office. And he was murdering babies at late term, like they were actually born, and he was snipping their necks and killing them. And then...
That's basically what all abortion doctors are doing anyway.
Right, but he was doing this against women's will. They didn't want them, and he was strapping them down and doing this to them. So, and he was killing women. So,
well, women die from regular abortions too.
so anyway, so I heard about this, and I was like really distraught, and I was like, it was kind of like the first time I was like more aware of just how much evil there was in the world. And I think one of the reasons why that story resonated with me was not just because it's obscenely evil, but because I learned about the concentration camp and Joseph Mengele, Dr. Mengele.
During the Holocaust?
Yeah, during the Holocaust. And so it was like I could make that equation, like he did that evil stuff. This doctor is basically a modern day Dr. Mengele.
Right, so you learn about the Holocaust. That got so bad, but that was a long time ago. But
yeah.
But it was for this Kermit.
He was like, killing babies, and it was like,
this is happening right now.
That happened in like the summer. It was like right after I turned 16, and that was a huge thing. Was like consecrating my body, giving your body over to God, and everything. That fall, I began to have health issues, and I attributed it to the fact that God must have not punishing me per se.
But now he has access to do whatever he wants to your body.
Yes.
And what he wants to do to your body is make you sick.
Yes, because God will use my suffering for his glory.
Which, newsflash, God doesn't give you illnesses. No. Except for there's like one case in the Old Testament.
But that
guy was being punished.
He can, but that's not his intent.
That's not in the New Testament, especially not for believers. Because it says, by his wounds you are healed. It's not his intention for anyone to be sick.
So I blamed God for all of my health issues. And I just seemed to have a string of them. Like, it was never ending. And weirdly, they all began in the fall.
What happened in the fall?
Which I didn't make that connection for a very long time because I didn't know. Like, even the phrase was like, I'm being purified, like dross being removed from gold, like God put you in the fire to remove the impurities from you. Again, another story. I think there is a scripture that references this. Yeah, I blamed God for my suffering, for my illnesses, for my sickness, and had no idea that the real issue was trauma. Yeah, so in the fall of 2011, I began to have mysterious leg pains return. And these...
So according to AI, it's saying that the heat of God's love refines people, removing their impurities and transforming them into something more valuable, which seems more consistent with the rest of Scripture. It's not like God's...
Isn't it loving for God to cause pain so that it makes me better, though? How is that not loving?
No, because as we've seen is the more we understand God's love, the better, more transformed we become.
Again, it comes back to your idea of what love is, because we were told that love is pain. I'm doing this to you for your good. This is for your good.
We don't see Jesus ever doing that.
I'm beating you for your good. I'm spanking you. I have to discipline you. And the only verse that they have to reference that there is something uncomfortable or whatever is when it says, if you are really a child of God, God will chastise. The chastisement will be uncomfortable or painful or something like that, but it's a good thing because you know that you're a child of God. But as we've come to learn, the chastisement of the Lord is more like a gentle prodding versus a beating.
Definitely not a beating.
But we use the phrase, God spanked me.
Nope.
God spanked me. God spanked you.
That's not right.
Or that's how God spanked you. And if you look at a lot of the things that happened that went wrong or whatever, it could be traced back to poor decision making. Mm-hmm. I didn't think I'd been disobedient. I thought I had been obedient to God by giving my body to him and allowing him to use it however he wanted. That was my prayer, was use my body however you want. And so I got sick. I was like, okay. So this is how you decided to use me. All right. So I began to have mysterious leg pains. And at first we're like, oh no, is leg calf perthes returning? And oh my gosh, it was just horrible, horrible pains. And like I took pain medication, nothing would take it away. I went to so many doctors. I ended up in physical therapy for bursitis because like my muscles were tight. And like the doctor I remember was even like very concerned by how tight my calf muscles were. They're like, we've never seen calf muscles this tight. This isn't normal.
Healthy teenage girls should not be experiencing that.
No. And I went to a lot of physical therapy. And it was so funny. Like I distinctly remember going there because I had to go and I had to get like, it was the first time I wore shorts, but I got boys shorts because all the girls shorts at Goodwill were all shorts. And I was like, I can't wear these. And they were too tight. So I was like, I'll just get boys basketball shorts. So, and then that was the first time I had a guy like working on me, and that was, oh my gosh, I was like, this is so awkward. But like we went so far as I had a needle, a huge needle this big, shoved into my thigh to provide contrast for an MRI. And the next option was exploratory surgery.
Oh my gosh.
And then I went to a foot doctor. Dad took me and Mom was like, you're incompetent. He was like, yeah, your foot is not the same length. My right leg was not the same, was not matching my left leg.
Isn't that fairly common? Or no?
No, and he's like, you need lifts in your shoe. So if we put a 3/4 lifts, which actually that could have helped. And years later, when I was married and went to the chiropractor when I was pregnant with one of them, it was just because the joint was out of place and she fixed it with one little pop. And that was the reason I had so much hip pain. But because we were looking at the symptoms all wrong, and this is like so just...
to food too?
No, they couldn't attribute that one to food. They were afraid it was leg calf perthes, again, returning the disease in my hip, which is why I went to, so many doctors, was to make sure that that wasn't happening. But it was just my hip bone was out of place. And it was corrected. But it was around that time that I started blogging, and you and I started talking. Mm-hmm. And I remember sharing with you on the forum, and you're like, oh, I'll pray for you. You're like, I think I remember comments like, oh, you're like, you have a faith strong like Paul, because like I was really freaking out because like I didn't know what was going on.
I don't think my faith was that strong.
No, you were telling me my faith was that strong.
That makes more sense.
Because I don't think we got into this in the last episode, but in all of this, so yeah, I started blogging, and the main reason that I actually clicked publish on my first post, which was my introduction, was because you followed my little measly blog, and I saw you as this huge blogger. Like you knew what you were doing. You had lots of followers. I think you had maybe like 200.
Yeah, something like that. It wasn't that many.
But to me, that was a lot. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it's serious now. I have a serious person following my blog. I should probably publish something. So I published my first blog post, and you left a comment, and we started talking. We started communicating back and forth, and then that's how we found out that we were both part of the anybody can go see these comments. It's hilarious. I think the Stop and Smell the Roses .blogspot.com, I think, or just look up A Rose Among Thorns blog. I changed the title. Very pretentious title, by the way.
What, Stop and Smell the Roses?
No, A Rose Among Thorns.
Oh, turned out to be accurate. But don't all roses have thorns?
Yeah, I guess it was like the beauty and the pain. Don't lick the mic. You're funny.
There you are.
So the day after,
You're on TV.
You told me, hey, I like writing. I was like, oh, I love writing. And you're like, oh, you brought up the forum. And I was like, I've been using this curriculum for 2 years. I didn't know this existed. And so I joined the forum, got approved, and then we started messaging on there, private messaging, and that was very, I kept
told
that
me
a
about
secret.
The
But-
demons and the burning all the toys and things.
Yes, I started sharing stuff with you.
Oh.
And you're like, this
You
is
said you'd
weird.
never marry someone that listened to rock and roll, man.
Yes, I
Guess she's
did.
off the table.
And who read fantasy and sci-fi. That was the big no-nos. And at the time, like, anybody who knew me at 16, my gosh, I was
almost
the
fired
most...
you from Kingdom Pen, too. I'm not gonna get into that story.
I didn't know that until much
Not really
later.
fired, but encouraged you to step down, too.
Yeah, because you guys were pursuing things that rightly should
Because
be
we
pursued in
interviewed-
Christian fiction.
Because we interviewed a Christian author who wrote a book that included vampires.
Amish vampires in space.
Yeah, because we interviewed him.
The whole concept.
What was his
so-
name? Carrie something.
Oh, yeah, carry something.
We'll look it up and put it in.
Anyway, yeah, we can cover that later. So that was
So I was like, if we have an opportunity to interview Stephen King, I'm going to take it. Just
yeah.
because you interview someone doesn't mean you believe everything that they stand for.
But see, again, that goes back to if you associate with that person or you approve, then that means
Look
you're
at, like,
approving of
look at
them.
news programs. News programs will interview presidential candidates.
Yeah,
and,
we could
like,
never have been a journalist. But like
Right, it's
that
all,
was
it's all about exposing everything to the light, to truth, and then you decide.
that's the funny thing we
based on that.
talked about. Like in our family, we're like, oh yeah, do everything in the light, but there was so much that went on in the dark.
Because the best counter to misinformation is good information, not censorship. So it's just like the far left. Want to censor everyone on social media, then you have Elon Musk come along and create X, where you get community notes, right? And you're not censoring people. You're allowed to have put whatever opinion you want out there and whatever misinformation you want out there. But then people can come along and provide better information, and that's how good ideas win. But your family is censored.
Oh yeah, censorship all over the place for sure. We censored ourselves. Yeah, it was around that time in the February of like a month after I joined the forum when the whole dad beating the sibling happened. That's when that happened, early 2012.
Wow.
And I censored writing that down in my journal, my diary. I didn't write exactly what happened. I couldn't.
I didn't know anything was.
Oh no, I could never. No. Couldn't say anything. No. We're not allowed to say anything because if we let mom know what happened, she'd divorce him. Do you want to be the reason the family breaks up?
What the?
Too funny. You're so cute. Yes, you are.
Can you help going back to sleep?
So then, let's see.
What? It wasn't me. I just promise. It's so funny.
So yeah, while getting to know you and everything, like I'm having to censor actually how much I'm letting my family know I'm actually talking to you. Like I kind of let mom know the kind of like debates that we were having and stuff, without letting her know that these were private conversations because I kind of showed her the
That's all we were
information.
doing was debating our views. You just sent me some weird ATI document about how the sound waves of rock music is
13 pages
messed up.
of doctrine on all the reasons why it was
Classical
sinful.
music made plants grow, but rock music made them die or something. I know, it's so silly.
So
I
silly.
was like, well, I'm not a plant. He had no answer.
Yeah, I didn't know how to debate you. I didn't know how to argue. I had no knowledge of doing anything. But it was like you were the first person to like challenge like anything. And like you didn't challenge too much because you were trying to be respectful of my parents' wishes because you're like, well, she's 16, she should. You didn't realize what you
I
were.
did back off a lot. I'm like, I don't want to
You
turn you
did.
against your parents. I was very conscientious of that.
Yeah, you were very conscientious of that. But then
But since I was the one I was more so on the defense because I don't agree with what you're doing, but if that's your family's standards, like I'm okay with that. I respect that. I'm like, wow, like I don't believe that, but if you believe that and you stick to that, I can respect that. Of course, then I come to find out you guys aren't even sticking to your beliefs, then I had no respect. But I'm like, hey, people can have different viewpoints. Like I wasn't even hurt that you were accusing me of things. Like this is new because I'm used to being in public school where everyone thinks I'm the weird conservative one. Like I'm not dating people and I don't swear and stuff. And now I'm getting attacked from the other side, which was completely alien and brand new to me.
my heart was in the right place because I was genuinely concerned.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't
you.
offended because I knew it was sincere.
I was genuinely I was worried, because everything that I had been told was if you listen to that kind of music, it will corrupt you. You'll go to hell. You'll end up a drug addict. You'll be rebellious. You'll turn your back on God. No. And it'll go badly for you. So it's I was genuinely worried, and I was I care about this person, and I was had a major crush on you at that point, and was imagining maybe marrying you, and I was but there's no way that can happen if he believes this, and so I was well, maybe he'll change, and then yeah, it was just I wanted it was so stupid because I wanted it to be I wanted you to be a possibility, and you were always a possibility. And we tried to meet up a couple of times, but I couldn't ever. I was always going to have to tell my parents that I was talking to you privately. And I had gone into the chat room of the OYN forum. This OYN forum, they really guarded who was it was only students who had the curriculum. So it was only homeschool students who could actually be in this forum. So it wasn't an internet chat room where anyone is allowed anywhere. It was just the homeschool students.
Anyone at any time can go in and see it, and you can see previous conversations. What was more dangerous was all the private messaging people did, and a lot of bad stuff happened there.
I went.
The chat room was safer than all the private messaging people did.
So I let a sibling know that I was in the public chat room, and she was you need to you're not allowed to do that anyway. Because somebody had been in an internet chat room and been doing something.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I don't know the full extent of what happened.
They're just jealous because I've been chatting online with babes all day.
Stay home and eat all the freaking chips, Kip.
Napoleon, don't be jealous that I've been chatting online with babes all day.
So, but that was my first exposure to other people who didn't know me in my real life. So I got to have this fun. I was trying to be authentic, but at the same time I was I can be someone away from my family. It wasn't I had a false persona. I mean, to be fair, I projected another public image, but I was fun. I was happy all the time. And meanwhile, I was super depressed and just didn't know it. I didn't know I was depressed. I thought about killing myself a lot. But I was oh, that's normal, right?
Everyone wants to kill himself, right?
I want to run away, but that's normal, right? I got all these issues going on. So then it was so we got the leg pain thing cleared up, and that was really difficult for me because that's when I had my little baking business, and I would stay up until 5 a.m. and making pies and cookies and stuff, and then all of a sudden I couldn't do it anymore because physical being on my feet really, really hurt. And I was oh, this really hurts my... And again, it was to some extent, in the beginning, people were doubting whether or not I actually had this illness. And they're you're making it up. And I was really, really upset because I was no, I'm not. So anyway, so we got that cleared up. It kind of went away. Going to physical therapy helped. And then the next fall, I ended up with more problems. I was trying to run, and I felt something off in my side. And I was then I started getting dizzy all the time. I couldn't stand up straight. I was having to lay down in my room.
You're too cute for this subject matter. Too pure and innocent to be here.
You are too pure and innocent. I don't want you to hear this stuff. He's what?
Although it provides a nice visual aid for the stuff that was going on and to who it was being done to.
Do it again.
So silly. Say daddy.
Yeah. You say nana, nana.
Say anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Nana.
Nana. Who's Nana?
It's a banana.
Oh. And teach him to say banana.
Banana. He saw the bananas we got from the store, and he was saying all across the parking lot, na, 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 na. And then when we got home, he found the nanas. He's saying, na, na. Na, na, na. got a little interrupted, so if
And
the
we're
energy is a little different.
It's now 3:14 in the morning.
So yeah, it was like, I think right after I turned, somewhere like around when I turned 17, in there, we were introduced to the Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead book and movie, in which this guy who was like, I don't know, 300, 400 pounds.
That second nearly dead.
Yeah, he did a juice fest, an extended 60-day juice fest. So Mom decided it would be a good idea for her to do a juice fest.
All right, we are good to go.
We're back. I started to talk about the juice fest, which was controversial for some people because they didn't believe that teens, because I was 17 at the time, I just turned 17 when I did that. And Mom kind of dared me to do it, in that she said, I don't think you can even last a week, let alone 30 days. And
She probably did that to...
so it was like, well, now I have to do
She
it.
probably knew that it would make you do it if she said it that way.
Yeah, because if you tell me I can't do something, I have to prove you wrong. So yeah, I think Mom and another sibling went 60 days, and it was just juice. And interestingly enough, it was during this time that our dress standards started to change just a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know what the correlation was, but suddenly we were allowed to wear looser pants as long as we had a longer, like, shirt slash... I mean,
Do
they
you
were
mean
always...
tighter pants?
Huh?
Do you mean you're allowed to wear tighter pants? Because I thought you could only wear loose, baggy clothing.
So we weren't allowed to wear pants, period, before this. The only time that we were allowed to wear pants was if we were doing
So
wood
meaning you're allowed
and-
to wear pants so long as they're loose, is what you mean.
Yes, looser
Versus
pants.
looser than what we've currently been wearing because you weren't wearing any pants at that point in time.
Correct.
You're only
Thank you for
allowed
the
to wear
clarification.
dresses.
So yeah, typically we only wore dresses, and that started to fudge a little bit when we were doing the more gruesome, grueling work that kind of...
You're doing more masculine work, so you need more
Yeah.
masculine clothing.
So weirdly enough, like early on, overalls were okay, but just jeans weren't.
Okay.
I don't know why.
So if they're secured around your waist, that's not okay. You gotta have them secured over your shoulders. Now it's
So
okay.
I was allowed to wear overalls when I was really young to clean out the chicken coop and everything. But wearing jeans was like a huge no-no. So when we did start wearing jeans to do wood, we usually had to make sure we had like something around our bottoms to cover, because that's,
I mean,
can't have that seen.
this is when
And-
you're out on your own property where there's like nobody around, though. What does that even matter?
Well, this is when we would do wood at more public places.
Oh, okay.
And if we did a job, like the roofing job I mentioned in the previous episode, or in a previous episode, I'm pretty sure we wore pants, because you can't be on a roof with a dress on, because that's basically a hazard. But we got away with it by having like longer dresses over our bottoms. So the dress standards started to change just a little bit when we started wearing like capri pants. But we had to wear a longer tunic type shirt, dress, and they had to be past a certain point down the thigh.
Okay.
Like if you went above a certain, like halfway down your thigh, it was so stupid. We're like, that dress is too short. That shirt's too short.
Even though you're wearing
Turn
pants
around.
underneath?
Even though you're wearing, you couldn't show your butt. Like that was a huge no-no. But I specifically remember going to this party.
Well, can't you
wearing
see
this.
someone's butt in a dress, too? You know it's there, at least.
It's not defined.
It's covered. Either way, it's covered up.
Well, there again, we didn't wear maxi skirts, which emphasizes
Okay.
the butt. Those were a huge no-no. And we judged other girls who wore them very harshly. That's when, after I got married, I got my own maxi skirt. It was kind of like...
And I think I remember that. Like, I'm wearing a mask. I'm like, okay. I don't know what that is.
You didn't think two things of it. Like, you're just like, okay, great.
I went to public school where girls are basically wearing their underwear, so.
But for me, that was a huge deal because, like, that fabric, that shape and everything is designed to accent your bottom. So,
Okay.
at least that's what I was taught. And so, like, there's like a dress style called the mermaid skirt. Huge no-no. It's a really, interestingly enough, it's a really popular wedding dress style, too. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know why mom decided that was okay. Like, dad was he was less enthusiastic about it, but somehow that was allowed at that point. I don't even know. I can't remember the launching point for that. But I do remember the first party because we went to someone else's house and they were like, "So what's it like? You guys are wearing pants now?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's really weird." And I was so self-conscious because
Well, yeah, you probably felt really exposed because you never dressed like that before.
I felt really exposed and hilariously in pants versus like a skirt. Because like typically you think with the skirt you would feel even more exposed, but we would often wear like leggings and tights and stuff underneath our dresses, and then we would also layer up on our dresses and everything. Like we wore like so many stinking layers, it was ridiculous and oppressive, really, really hot. Because I think you can dress modestly without having to wear a million different clothing items. But, yeah, I think I already addressed that. So anyway, did this juice fast. I lost a bunch of weight, felt healthy. And then after a little bit later in the year, I started having these weird symptoms. Again, it started in the fall. And it went on for about 4 months of not really knowing what was going on. And again, I was taken to doctors because I was like so dizzy to the point where I couldn't stand up and felt really sick. So mom, we figured it out. It was something to do with my gallbladder. So mom had me do like hot compresses. And then I remember she had me, she thought it was gallstones. So she had me drink 3 cups of Epsom salt water.
So she didn't take you to get looked at to get a diagnosis?
We did.
And they didn't know what it was?
It was like, I can't remember when this treatment took place. I think this was like in between getting appointments and stuff.
Okay.
I'm not really sure on the timeline because I had like ultrasounds on my gallbladder and stuff.
All right.
But yeah, I just remember drinking Epsom salt water and she refused to do it herself. She was like, "I'll just encapsulate my Epsom salts." I'm like, "You couldn't have done that for me?" I'm like, "You wuss." I'm like, "Who's more woman now?" I drank 3 cups of this disgustingness. Now, that is a treatment.
That's a weird phrase, too. Like, that's not an expression I've heard anyone use, like, woman up.
Really?
Mm-mm.
It's pretty common in the, there's a whole song.
I've heard man up. It's like basically you're telling the women to act like men.
It's a Meghan Trainor song, Woman Up, Woman Up.
So it's your family were feminists?
Yeah.
You're basically being told to man up, act more like a man.
Well, we kind of despised both. We despised the very toxic masculinity that we were being raised in, like the household, like super sexist. And so I don't know. I know at some point I was a feminist.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Me and Stephanie, I was like, fine, you know what? No one's going to protect me. I'll protect myself. I'll do it myself. I'll take care of myself.
Right, kind of had to be. Because there's supposed to be a trade-off if you're going to have that level of sexism where it's like you don't have fewer rights. The trade-off is, well, you're going to be protected at least. But you didn't. It's like the men got all the perks and with none of the responsibilities.
Yeah, we were constantly let down by the men around us. So yeah, me and an older sibling, we just kind of were like, I think this was after I turned 18. Yeah, this was a little before then, but yeah, I was just watching what happened. I'll get into that in a little bit. what kind of went into all that. So anyway, so it doesn't work. The 3 cups of disgusting Epsom salts doesn't work. And I end up finding out that my gallbladder is only functioning at like 20%. So it's like barely functioning. So the doctor's plan was to remove it.
So how normal is that for a teenage
for a
girl?
17-year-old? It's not supposed to be normal at all.
Did they say what causes it?
They didn't know.
They didn't know.
They did not know. They had no clue. They're like, we don't know what causes this, but we're just going to go ahead and remove it. So the surgery was scheduled and everything, and we're
I know a lot of more doctors today are coming around to this whole concept that if you don't know, if they can't figure out what's wrong with someone or why they have something or diseases that there's no known cause, a lot of it can be trauma-based or spiritual-based.
Yeah,
I don't know how many doctors would say spiritual-based, but they were coming around to the whole idea of trauma.
I think more doctors would say it's more like emotional-based. But this wasn't even emotionally. I mean, it kind of was. I figured it out later on. It was tied to. So a week out from surgery, Mom's like, I don't think the best thing is to have her gallbladder removed at 17 because that sets you up for. You have to eat a specific diet the rest of your life. Like there are certain things your body can't process the way, like fats and oils. Like your body has a harder time handling those things. So she took me to a more natural, holistic doctor, and he said, "Go off of dairy and gluten for 2 months and see what happens." So I did. And we canceled the surgery. And then I started improving. And then we'd been out somewhere and I completely forgot that there's gluten in Taco Bell. And I ate a tortilla and instantly same pain and in my gallbladder. I was like, that's it. It was the gluten. So I was like, okay, I have to avoid gluten now, which really stinks because gluten is delicious. It's super delicious. So I was gluten-free and like the dairy-free, I noticed dairy wasn't too bad, but it did cause some issues here and there. So I tried to stay away from dairy and I was like, all right, dang it. Okay, I'm one of those weirdos now. And so I thought I was allergic. That wasn't the correct term. I just had food sensitivities. There's a difference. Allergic causes like severe reactions,
Right,
like you need like epinephrine to recover.
Disease,
yeah, like celiac disease, and I wasn't going into anaphylactic shock. It was weirdly shutting my organs down for some reason. So obviously, food was the problem.
To this day,
food was always the problem.
Your mom attributes all the problems that everyone has to food.
And I later found out that wasn't the case because, spoiler alert, I can eat gluten.
Or Wi-Fi.
Or Wi-Fi, oh my gosh. Yeah, we didn't have Wi-Fi because they believed that...
Put your phone in the microwave so you don't get turned into zombie from the microbots that they put into your bloodstream from the vaccines, even though they didn't get vaccines.
If you start biting people, let me know.
We believe legitimately in zombies that from the COVID vaccine, it would trigger you to start making you bite people, which is literally zombies. So... That's crazy.
We'd have a winning chance because we watched The Walking Dead and they didn't, so as far as I know. Anyway, so...
Yeah, we know how to survive the zombie apocalypse. They don't, because they didn't watch such things. We thought it was fantasy. They think it's real.
So yeah, so it appeared that, food was the issue at the time. And it was around this time, I'm in the middle of having issues with my gallbladder. I was in a serious car accident. And like this is so crazy, but we were going around a curve, and we attributed it to a spiritual attack simply because the one sister who was driving had been going through her speech that she was going to give at our parents' 25th anniversary.
Okay.
Wedding, that like vow renewal.
Like that did anything.
Ironically, yeah, that was a year before basically
They divorced each other?
hell broke loose. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
year and a half.
they both admit they divorced each other
Yes.
unofficially, just on their own without actually going through the legal part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's not an exaggeration. That those are statements I've gotten from both of them at multiple times. So we attributed this. So she was going to share the gospel. This was a huge party. Okay. My family is well known for putting on huge events.
Inviting lots of dangerous people. And
Lots of people. Yeah.
we're learning lots of horrific things happened at these parties
Yeah.
to children.
So we were planning, there were some people who were going to be there who weren't Christians. And during the part where us girls were going to put on, sing songs for mom and dad. Sorry, I think my gestures are knocking into the microphone.
So make sure it doesn't get disconnected.
Getting very animated.
You can do it. Just do it out here. And continue.
I feel like a crab now. Oh. Anyway, I think the caffeine's kicking in.
Not for me.
Yeah, we were going to put on a performance basically at this 25-year anniversary party that we were planning for mom and dad. I think it was supposed to be a surprise, kind of, or at least some of it. And we were going to share the gospel, or our version of the gospel at the time. My family's version of the gospel.
Fake gospel.
The false gospel. So anyway, she was running through her speech when we went around this, like, basically a hairpin turn, which it was in January, and the roads were icy, and somehow we missed a patch of the black ice, and the car turned. What?
This is just a Key and Peele episode about black ice. It's really funny.
Jamie? Well, stay off the roads if you can, folks. Lots of reports of black ice.
Ooh, you gotta watch out for that dangerous black ice. It's transparent and sneaky. Hard to see black ice.
That's right, Marcy. Keep your loved ones safe and warn them to stay off the streets tonight because of menacing, life-robbing black ice.
Isaac.
And so on these backcountry roads that we're driving on, there's no guardrail on the. You're still thinking about that?
Yes. Keep going. Don't just don't look at me.
Getting into this very dark and serious part. You're over here laughing.
Smile.
Okay.
Not allowed to smile.
You are allowed to smile. I love your smile. So anyway, so there's no guardrails on this curve, which there should have been because there's a ravine, a wooded ravine, like, I don't know how deep it is.
Beck's Grove.
So,
Rated R.
That's not giving too much information, is it?
Beck's Grove Road.
Well, you guys talked about this publicly. You wrote about it on your blog.
That's true. We put it. It's still on my blog. This information is still on the internet.
It just sounds
We
like
can
it just sounds
include
like
the pictures.
the name of the
car
road
accident.
just sounds like something from a rated R.
It does sound like a horror movie.
Don't go down. Beck's Grove.
There's so many accidents there. So anyway, so the car is headed towards the edge of the cliff. Like, that's where we're going. And the person driving lets go of the steering wheel, and she's just screaming. And I'm like,
why is it going off course?
Like, I'm not
steering it.
Because at this point, we're headed this direction. There's no chance. It doesn't look like there's any chance we can turn the car.
That happened to me before on our, just in our neighborhood, which I wasn't going very fast, thankfully, because it was a neighborhood. But it's just, I wasn't the only one. My grandparents happened to live right in that corner, and I went to turn, and it just didn't turn because of the ice. It just went straight right into the mailbox. Other people had hit their mailbox before, too, though, because they were right on that curve. But thankfully, you're only going like 5-10 miles per hour on that corner. But yeah, ice is hard to turn on.
She said that we were only going 40, 45 miles per hour, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, they usually can tell from crime scene forensics.
So everyone else, the firemen, all of them were saying
they would know.
You had to have been going faster in order for this kind of an impact. And
so she was probably going faster.
The driver was...
Plus, I've ridden cars with your family driving on those roads, and they go super fast and don't drive very safe.
No.
They like weave into the other lane. Even when there's a hill like right in front of them, and you can't see... Like, you're in the other lane. There could be a car right there. You could get a head-on collision going like 60 miles per hour on these country roads.
I know. I absolutely hated driving. Just a lot of dissociating that went on in the car.
I remember praying every time we were driving. Like, man.
Yeah, you're risking your life. And my family has gotten into countless accidents, upwards of 20, like between all the drivers.
They're very dangerous roads because they're narrow. You got trees on both sides or ravines. Hills where there's no visibility over the other side. It's very dark at night. There's no lights.
And
so whenever I was driving,
deer.
That's why like when we would go and we get a rental car, like let's try to leave before it gets dark, because we've had near accidents. And I drive very carefully.
Yeah, a lot of other people have too. And you also have to. There's deer out there, and we hit deer constantly.
Well, one of your siblings has been in 3 different car accidents before they were.
I know of.
Before they were how old?
Like 18.
So yeah, there's like.
Yeah, like I said, like there's been so many accidents. So anyway,
it's really a miracle no one's died yet.
Honestly, yeah. We should have died. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna die, and then suddenly, no hands on the wheel. Okay, no one has the steering wheel. The car jerks to the other side of the road. And there's an embankment over there. So there's land over there. And we end up running into the base of this really big tree. And then the car starts rolling. I don't know how long it rolled. I don't know. Because like when you're in the middle of something like that, you just kind of like space out. And I just remember feeling really bad about saying this, but I was saying, oh God, like repeatedly. Because I was like, I guess I'm coming home. I guess I'm going to heaven.
Country roads, take me home.
Except I wouldn't have gone to heaven then. And in the midst of this, like, at some point, my head hit the windshield. We had seatbelts on, but somehow I still, like, I ended up with a concussion. It was a mild concussion, but it was a concussion nonetheless. Because I remember feeling really sick and having a headache and... just feeling really off for the next couple days. And then the rolling stops, and we're trying to figure out where we're at.
Didn't you say you felt someone, like, holding you?
Yes. It did feel like there were arms wrapped around us, because we were, like, we were hitting the window, we were hitting all sorts of things.
It was really weird if you had seatbelts on.
I know. It's just we were, like, jostled all over the place. And there were no airbags. So it was a really old car. And it had no heat. I don't think. Anyway, so we realize I'm trying to figure out where the floor is and where my seatbelt is, and I realize I'm dangling upside down. And I'm looking at the shattered windshield, which it shattered, but it's still intact. So it's like...
Like, it has a bunch of cracks through it?
Yes.
So it's cracked, it's not shattered.
Yeah, so it's cracked in like a million different ways, but it's still...
Holding together.
And I think there were like pieces of the other window. Like there was some glass on the floor.
I know I saw a picture of it on your old blog.
Yeah, we can include the pictures.
Okay.
The pictures are still...
Okay.
They're still available on the internet, so we can show those. So we get out and we call mom and dad, and then we call 911, obviously. And they're like, "Wait, who was in this accident?" And so we're like, "We were," and they're just stunned. Firemen are just completely stunned.
So when they showed up, they asked.
Yeah, when they showed up, they're like, who's injured? Because like they're looking at a scene where we should have had cuts. No one had any cuts. There were no cuts, nothing. And yet there was glass on the all around, and it looked really bad.
Definitely supernatural.
Very supernatural. So they were like shining lights in our eyes, like making sure we still had pupil response and, all that. And they're like, they wanted us to go to the hospital to get checked out. And we're like, no, we're not going. So the other miraculous thing was we didn't have the money to pay for the towing fee. So Dad drove the stupid car home.
What? It worked enough to drive?
It worked long enough to get it home.
Wow.
And that was it.
Wow.
So that was the car, and no one else was in the car. we rode in the van with Mom because she met up with us.
Did you have to stick his head out the window to be able to see through the cracked windshield?
I think so. He did something crazy like that. We were only 15 minutes from home, if even that. But anyway, so there's that accident, and that was pretty traumatizing to say the least.
Didn't you have lights in the trunk and none of them broke?
Oh yeah, that's right. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, we borrowed a bunch of Christmas lights from someone else. So they weren't ours, and we're like, we got to take care of these. And we were going to use them to string up for decoration for the party and everything. And yeah, none of them were broken. And that felt like another tiny miracle because it's like...
So do you think the accident was spiritual? Demons forced you to crash? Or does it just...
I think so.
Unsafe driving?
I think it was a combination of both. Because it was interesting because a sibling had a vision of us in the car.
Okay.
And she saw demons pushing the car towards the cliff and angels pushing the car.
Kind of an important detail you left out there.
The other way.
Who was that?
Huh?
Who had that vision?
Emily.
Oh, interesting.
She was at home, and when she heard we had the call.
But I thought your family doesn't believe. I thought that's a spiritual gift that they think has ceased, that they're cessationists. That God doesn't give people visions or communicate that way anymore.
I don't know.
It's so crazy how they pick and choose.
I don't know about that one, but we always kind of just attributed it because she had more demonic exposure than the rest of us, that she was more sensitive to those kinds of things. And it made sense that she would have this.
Well, yeah, spiritual gifts. Some people are more
vision.
attuned to different things.
So, yeah, she told us that when she'd received the call that we'd been in the accident, that's what she was picturing and she hadn't gotten any of the details of the accident either. She just knew we'd been in a car accident, and then she gets this vision of us heading.
So one might say, how can you get visions like that unless you're Christian?
Well, they say, I've heard it said that some people have these gifts before they can have these gifts.
There's tons of stories of God showing up to Muslims and dreams and
God's going to show you.
Right, God can have relation. God can have relation.
Is it that verse that God's no respecter of persons or something like that? I think that's the KJV version.
But yeah, I mean, you can have a relationship with God, but not actually be saved.
Yes, that's what I had. Because, I mean, you have the story of Cornelius in Acts 8 or 9 or 10.
Right, lots of people in the Old Testament or even New Testament who knew who the God of Israel was. They knew he existed. They believed in him.
Yeah, because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not about our strength or our
even
power.
The demons
it's God showing.
Yeah, so.
It's God showing up. Because I had visions of stuff that ended up coming true before I was completely born again, either before I actually had the Holy Spirit. Just for either the next video or the video after that. So yeah, I had an extreme fear of driving after that, especially driving in the snow and in the wintertime. And I was like, I don't want to. Of course, a couple months later, I get stuff with my gallbladder resolved. I'm just gluten-free now. And then I'm about to graduate, and I have my last World Piano Competition semifinals. And 2 weeks before I'm supposed to be on stage in Cincinnati Ohio, which was like, it's like you're performing before a whole bunch of judges, and that's where all the people who've made it to the semifinals in their categories from all the different countries come.
Wow, Cincinnati of all places.
Yeah, Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where it was hosted every year, the semifinals. And this giant spotlight on you, and it's really hot, but it's a lot of fun. But anyway, 2 weeks before, I start having really weird wrist pain, just really bad wrist pain, and in both my forearms, and it's really weird, really random, or at least it just seems that way. I don't go to the doctor for it because it's not that serious. Doesn't seem that serious, and I just say I have tendinitis. And I put ice packs on it. It doesn't really help. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. So anyway, so I start having, so I compete. I didn't make it to the finals or anything, but I chalked it up to the fact that I was only one of 2 Americans that actually made it in my category. All the rest were Asians.
Were they Asians or actually from Asia?
I think they were from China.
What's in Asia?
Yeah.
So they came from China to Cincinnati, Ohio for the competition.
Yeah, it was a world piano competition.
That's
And so it's everybody, people from all over the world compete in this
so
competition.
It's not that they were okay, wow.
No, it's because they dominated
the
music industry.
We all know about the stereotypes.
Yeah, they exist.
Just look up Stephen He on YouTube.
Yeah. I was in another competition where the Asian girl won first place, and I was relieved because
she was probably going to get beaten for it if she lost?
Yes. Yeah, and our teacher knew that. She was like, it's okay that you only got second place. I would rather.
That's so sad.
I'm like, I'd rather her win. She's like, you would have gotten first place, but I'm like, nope, I'll take second. I'll take second. That's completely fine. Second overall in the state, I'll take it. It's fine with me. So anyway, I finally graduate. I wanted to graduate earlier, but Mom decided that she was going to keep me for another year.
I guess we're not even going to go into your education and how poor that was.
We can. No, I was going to mention.
That's the great thing about homeschooling is it's a blank slate, so you can make it as great as you want it to be, or you can leave the slate blank.
You can make it as poor as you want it to be, and we had, my education was poorly lacking, and I tried my best to make up for it because I knew there were gaps when I got to high school. I knew there were gaps. The extent of my biology education was just reading a 5th grade Abeka textbook, biology textbook.
Yeah, I did.
I was the only one who
when we
read
were
that.
Engaged.
Yeah.
About your own body, you didn't know that.
Yeah, because I felt dirty for reading this section on human biology and learning about the cycle of life and DNA and RNA.
Should have watched The Lion King.
Did when we were really, really young.
I'm just joking. You wouldn't have learned anything in The Lion King.
So yeah, let's see. We did ATI wisdom booklets for the longest time. And there were 2 ways people took this. Some people felt like it was too much information, like you're learning a million different facts. That's if you stuck with the rigorous, you kept up on top of it.
It was very random. It jumped around. It was no logical sequence that you would take you through.
Well, there was one logical sequence.
Oh, okay.
The Sermon on the Mount.
But it pulled in a bunch of random stuff, like a little bit of, right, when you grab history here and then some science here. It's there's no curriculum.
Yes, correct.
Linear curriculum.
No. I learned about the Elephant Man, and I also learned about
just a bunch of random information.
different math equations that I can't even remember at this point. We did science and chemical stuff, but it was so random, so
nothing
it
was
wasn't building on each other.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, it was based on Matthew 5, 6, and 7. And there was like 1 to 2 verses was the basis for each booklet. And we can link
the point
to
of the Sermon on the Mount isn't to give you an education. That was never the point of the Sermon on the Mount. It was to give you an academic education.
That's the way they took it, and it was meant for. I just found out that it was meant for college age students, not 5-year-olds. That's when I started reading through this. Was at age 5.
But I'm talking about the Sermon on the Mount. Period is not for that. Sermon on the Mount is talking about the kingdom of heaven.
When we
it's not talking about science and history and all this other stuff.
Which verse is it? The pure in heart, that they shall see God. So the seeing part. So the biology part in that was we dissected sheep's eyes.
How's that?
To learn the parts of the eye.
That's called a non sequitur. That's not at all related to, or the slippery slope. Like, that's not related at all to the Sermon on the Mount.
Yes, it is. There's
seeing.
This
Bible verse says see, so now we're going to learn about the eyes. That's how random and disjointed it was.
It's very random. And we can link to a website that you can look in depth at this kind of curriculum and see all the false teaching, the randomness.
Whereas my homeschool education, I took classes from like college classes from like 3 different colleges. I had a bunch of online classes where I had teachers. My classmates were from people all over the world, Africa, Asia, Europe.
We met with exchange students from Germany.
Yeah, a lot of different online classes. So yeah, people have this limited view of homeschooling that's like, oh, just your mom teaches you. Like, no, like I had all kinds of different books I went through, different curriculums, many different teachers online all over the world, fellow classmates all over the world. Got to learn a lot of classes they don't teach, like rhetoric, metaphysics, things like that. So it's like, and I had like a whole semester of college completed before I finished high school. And that's kind of easy to do. I know other people who have like half their college done while they're still in high school or more. So there's just so much. So we definitely are still, homeschooling is still definitely the number one best way to educate your kids, because it's so much more than homeschooling. That's kind of a misnomer.
Yeah, it's not, and especially since
it's definitely the gold
since COVID.
It's definitely the gold standard if you can do it, because not everyone can do it. Because, well, I mean, I would say everyone probably can do it. It's just you might have
to find the sources to.
Right, one of the parents just has to maybe quit their job and stay home, and they have to sacrifice. Maybe you can't have the lifestyle you want to have. That's like, but anyone can homeschool, and it's definitely the best way. And I definitely stand by that. But it can also be. It's assuming you have loving parents. If you have loving parents, it's the best system. But if you have parents that don't really care about their kids being intelligent or their what's good for them, then you end up with kind of how you guys are educated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, like Indiana law just had pretty loose standards. Loose homeschooling standards. Mm-hmm. So obviously, if you have,
which I'm generally in favor of, I don't want the government involved, but then you do run into the problem. What do you do when you don't have good parents trying to do homeschooling?
Well, then as an adult, you take charge of your own education and you fill in the gaps yourself,
mm-hmm.
which is what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's simply what you do. It's like once you become an adult, you're kind of responsible for whatever life choices you make. I mean, you can blame your parents for, the lack of this and the lack of this.
All the information's online now, so there's no gatekeepers, right?
Just
you don't need to go to college
watch
or anything.
A YouTube series.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many YouTube channels out there that are so educational. I mean, there's free classes.
Yeah, I learned, I was taking some, college chemistry classes, and it was being taught so poorly that I found a YouTube channel, this guy called Chem Guy, and that's how I learned AP chemistry as a sophomore in high school. And Khan Academy when I was struggling with stuff I think I was even in college at the time at Ohio State. Khan Academy
is great.
It's because it's a meritocracy online, whereas a lot of these schooling institutions and colleges, professors get tenure, and it's really hard to fire them, and so they can have poor results, not really be good teachers. And they have to be kept around. But in the online world, you're either good or you're not going to succeed. And so a lot of times you have much better teachers, much better learning you can get online through platforms or even like just courses you can buy. So it's so much better.
But if you don't feel comfortable teaching your own kids, there are schools that you can enroll your kids in for several days a week. It's not even all
there's
the
so
time.
many options.
There's so many options out there now. It's
there's really no excuse not to homeschool.
It's pretty amazing, actually.
Not to mention all the indoctrination that happens in public schools today, and all the other dangers, shootings, bullying, all kinds of stuff.
Which, hilariously enough, we were supposed to have been shielded from bullying. And there's a blog post my mom wrote that was like 9 reasons we homeschool, or the great things about homeschooling, or whatever. And
but your dad was a bully, so you couldn't really escape that.
Me and another sibling read through it, and we're like, this is flagrantly untrue, because we're like, there was still cliques, there was still bullying, there was still making fun of other people, there was still like, so the math thing for me, I was doing one curriculum just because the oldest sister, she excelled in this, like she understood this curriculum. I think it was Saxon math, and I was trying to do the same curriculum, and I was flunking out. I got maybe one question right in my entire 5th grade math book. And I was like, I don't know what to do about this. So finally, she took a look at it. She's like, oh my gosh, you're flunking math. And I was like, oh no. So I took a retest and ended up in 4th grade math. And that was, I couldn't stand that. I hated that so bad, because it was like, I should be in this.
Didn't you get assaulted, though, for being more advanced than an older sibling?
So that was my goal. Yes. I was going to make up the difference, the fact that I was so many grades behind.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's
so
the other great thing about homeschooling is you can work ahead and actually get many grades ahead, because you're not held back by all your other classmates.
No, you're not. And so I would... So we switched to Christian Light publication, which was a Mennonite-based math curriculum. They also do language arts, so we did that too. And they had 10 books per grade. And I was on my own. I'm like, I might as well do these lessons myself. I wanted to get caught up. So I was flying through the math books. And most of their education, like they condensed their math down. So you only had to do 8 grades, because that was pretty typical for Mennonites.
Right, because then you're in the farming.
You're doing, and the 8th grade math wasn't typical 8th grade math. It was learning how to balance a checkbook, like they had you practice writing checks, practicing, doing all this like actual real world.
That's nice.
Accounting and finances and stuff. And then occasionally Dad would have us balance the checkbook.
Yeah, they don't do that in public school.
He could teach us how to keep, learn some of the finances that way.
And the public school system I was in was like rated as one of the top public school systems in the country. Like people move to Dublin, Ohio just for the school system.
Wow.
And I still wasn't impressed. Homeschooling is still way better.
It is way better because like and this is something I learned, is that every child learns differently. Mm-hmm. Something is going to resonate.
It's one size fits all.
And I took this, so I finally get to, and I kept it a secret. Mm-hmm. Wasn't telling anyone that I was doing this with my math until the one sibling was like, hey, where's my answer key? Have you seen the answer key for this grade? And I was like, we were in the stairwell. And so our stairwell, I say stairwell because it was an actual stairwell. There were walls on either side of this staircase. I was like, oh, it's on my bed. She got so mad. She shoved me pretty violently shoved me into the wall.
Didn't she slap you at one point too, or is that completely? That was a different time?
Yeah, she slapped me too. Same sibling. Yeah.
Different event?
Okay. Yeah. We were fighting over a mutual friend, and I said that friend liked me better. And
she raped you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this was when she was in her teens, though. She was yeah. So I was like, yeah, bullying and violence is still part of my homeschooling experience. Because, yeah, I got made fun of for being ambitious. They're like, oh, what are you going to do? You're going to try to be the smartest one? I'm like, I like being smart.
It's like they're a bucket of crabs.
I liked reading.
Pull anyone down that tried to.
I was trying to advance my education because it was like, I don't know. I wanted to feel smart because I just didn't like not feeling smart. And then I got to the ninth grade, which was Algebra 1, and I don't know if they got a different writer. I was flunking that again, and I was like trying to study for the SAT. I wasn't sure. Mom kept pulling me back and forth. She's like, you need to study for the SATs. You need to study for the GED. And I'm like, okay.
GED, that's a joke.
Different strategies.
Yeah.
Different strategies. You need different. And I'm like, pick one because I need to know. I'm months away from scheduling this. I need to know which one.
If you're not going to go to college, there's no point in those tests.
So that was the thing. Was I going to college or wasn't I?
See, I took the SAT once and I took the ACT 3 times because I was trying to go to college.
I remember you telling me about that.
They're so dumb. They don't show your intelligence at all.
No, the SATs. Oh my gosh, it's a joke.
Or how good of a student you're going to be, because
it's only
half of it is
how
guessing.
Well you can take a test.
It's guessing because they intentionally make it so you don't have enough time to finish it. So it's not really testing your knowledge. It's like deductions. Yeah.
Yes.
That doesn't show like what kind of work ethic you have, how intelligent you are.
Because this is directly tied into the next medical
event.
Problem. Yeah, event. It's all coming together. And also, I know people have had questions about the college decision. So, in my family, girls were not going to college. If you were a girl, you were not expected to go to college. It was frowned upon.
Really, if you're a boy or a girl, you shouldn't go to college.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense for 50% of people.
There's certain jobs that require you
like 50%.
Go to college.
Other 50% don't need college.
So I had gotten interested in music teaching. I had been teaching my siblings, and the plan was once I graduated, I would teach other students around the area piano teaching. And the woman who was teaching me saw a lot of potential. And she is the reason why I mentioned before that my parents were scared of her and intimidated.
Also, real quick, I should just say that I do have a college degree, so I think I'm able to speak on college.
Yeah, you do actually have a college degree.
Yeah, and I've attended like 3 or 4 different colleges. So.
And you've also had different kinds of training, which you found to be... We'll probably cover that later. Anyway, so basically, the only reason why we even considered college for me was because the scary teacher talked to my parents, and she strongly encouraged them. She was like, she has a lot of potential. Don't waste it. And
so what was her vision for you that you could be?
She wanted to help me be a proficient music teacher. And that was how she told me the story of how she became a really good music teacher.
You don't need to go to college to be a good music teacher.
Well, she did. She did. And she got really good. So her professor would have her teach his students.
Okay.
So that was kind of how she learned. Now, she went to college in like the 50s and the 60s.
Where it was much cheaper.
And you probably got a much classier education.
Yeah, they throw in so much extra stuff now.
Yeah. So, because I mean, she was getting hands-on experience.
I was taking straight up propaganda classes, brainwashing classes at Ohio State for freshmen. Just for freshmen to like cleanse you of all your whatever viewpoints to give you the super most woke, ridiculous nonsense.
So yeah, so we knew this was the kind of thing that I was going to be facing. So when it came down to it, my parents were like, okay, we'll consider this for Haley. And I was presented with 3 different colleges. Patrick Henry College.
I went there. Or took a class there.
remember the third one. Oh my gosh. I know it was the two
Actually, I
most
think I
serious
took two
ones.
classes.
Patrick Henry College. There was, Bob Jones University, I think was the other one.
Moody or something?
No, not Moody Institute. I don't think they had a music program at the time. And then there was a college in Pensacola, Florida. I was really excited about that one. And that one had like a student pay, like you could get a job on campus to help pay back your tuition. So that was the one reason why it was presented as an option. I don't know why we didn't look into financial aid. But I was basically presented with options that were not favorable to the family because moving out of state was, again, frowned upon.
So like you can go to college, but they made it so difficult and impractical that it wasn't really an option.
Kind of. There was a lot of negativity. Like mom was like, hey, wherever you go, you're going to be there for 4 years and chances are that's where you're going to meet your husband. So you're going to meet your husband in Pensacola, Florida. Do you really want to live in Florida?
I didn't meet my spouse in college.
Do you want to live in Florida?
Well, that's ironic.
I know.
Because that's where we live now.
And so it was kind of like I was excited and I gave it some extensive thought. And then I was praying about it. I'm like, long term, this doesn't fit into my vision. Because I really did want to be an author, for one thing, was what I wanted to do. I did want to pursue music, but that wasn't the end goal for me. I wanted to be a wife and a mom, and I'm like...
Well, now we're doing music, too. We're doing a band with Andromeda Coast.
Exactly.
Yeah, our new single just released, so you can check it out.
Yes. It's a really good single.
And we'll have a bunch more music coming out. Got some Christmas songs coming out.
Probably by the time this one is edited and published, Good King Wenceslas will probably be out, too. So I did decide I didn't want to go to college.
It was probably a good decision.
I think it was the best decision.
Yeah, it's such an outdated, just probably so many people still think you have to go to college. It's such an outdated mindset. Like, come on, this is, we're not in the 90s anymore or 80s.
Because I already knew, like, I had a couple students, piano students, with other families that we knew. I already had them lined up for when I graduated.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you've had no trouble getting students to teach piano. If you wanted to teach piano today, you could get tons of students.
Oh, yeah.
And you've done a great job.
I've taught over 40 students. I've taught over 40 students.
Right. Why spend tens of thousands of dollars to do what you already know how to do? It's kind of ridiculous.
Well, and I kind of learned on the job. But also...
But there's tons, you could...
The teacher
you could look up
was like,
YouTube
okay,
channels
fine,
that teach you how to teach.
Well,
read books on teaching.
So the teacher who wanted me to go to college, she said, well, if you're not going to go to college, fine. I will teach you how to teach piano.
There you go. You could have just had her teach you.
And so she started...
Mentorship is so huge. Apprenticeships.
That's what she was doing. So we would have a little bit of my lesson.
That's so much more valuable. If you're going to pay a lot of money, like go find someone who's an expert and see if you can hire them or pay them to teach you.
Here's the thing. She kept my rates at a certain level. She was still allowing me to just pay the regular, the reduced rate because at this point I was paying for my lessons myself, which was very stressful because I was like, okay, now I have to make sure that I have this much money every freaking month. So that was a little bit stressful.
You didn't even have enough money for food or clothing. And the one time you did buy yourself some clothes, like some underwear or something, your mom got mad at you.
Yeah, we used our birthday money to buy underwear for us. Most of the clothes that I got were donated. Like other people were just like, hey, we're not using these. Do you want these? So if
Even
my
your
style was
underwear?
weird, yes, even my underwear.
Really
we're not going to think about that. Well, I don't know. We'll sit with the uncomfortability of this. So anyway, so this was with the fall. I started...
Well, if you're seeing each other go to the bathroom, what's the difference in wearing each other's underwear?
That was kind of the... It's like it got washed. What's the big deal?
All right, I don't want to think about this anymore. Let's move on.
So with some cracks in my education, I graduated, had a huge graduation party, and with the money I got from my graduation party, bought my first it was a netbook or notebook. It was a little tiny, it was actually about this size, a little bit
Chromebook?
smaller than this. was a little bit smaller than that, but I was planning on writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted my own computer so that I could be able to, and I didn't have Wi-Fi, so I wasn't able to get on the internet. So I was all set. I had, I felt like I had my future laid out for me. I already knew what I was doing. I had a little crochet business where I was going to sell stuff in Chris's shop. I started selling.
The slave.
Yes.
Master.
She had me. I crocheted some scarves and sold them in her shop, and then I'd set up an online shop.
You were getting paid below minimum wage, though. Don't you have to pay minimum wage?
That I don't know. She couldn't let me do more than 2 boxes a week because she tracked how many hours, and that's what they were.
What about minimum wage?
I don't know.
Because you got paid like $2 an hour. $1.50 an hour.
Yeah, I was like $1.50 an hour. I don't know. That I don't know. Anyway.
The sweatshop lady, the lady that owned the sweatshop.
Basically. Anyway, so I was all set. I had a couple different students I was teaching. And then I start having heart palpitations weird in September. And I'm like, what is this? I don't know what this is. And so we had this like book that had a list of diseases that had symptoms and stuff. And for some reason, I was terrified of getting Lyme disease, which at the time was stated to have not been in the state of Indiana at the time by the insurance companies. So they said it was not possible for anyone in the state of Indiana to have Lyme disease. Because back in the 90s, when it became more popular, the insurance companies...
so popular, I want Lyme disease.
Well, just so many cases.
Widespread.
Widespread, yeah. Popular, widespread. The insurance companies were like, we're not funding this. This is too much money because there's no cure for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
There's speculation that's man-made as a bioweapon.
It's not really speculation anymore. It's kind of... That's part of Operation
like COVID.
Paperclip.
It's part of Operation Paperclip.
Yeah, it was a German scientist who created it. He went to Plum Island. He went to a facility on Plum Island in Connecticut. Lyme, it's near Lyme, Connecticut, which is why it's called Lyme disease.
This is where it first broke out.
Yes.
Just like COVID, like the first cases were right by the Wuhan laboratory for novel coronavirus. What are the odds?
So in this time, like I'm terrified of getting Lyme disease and all this. And so I look up the symptoms and I'm like, I think I might have this, but I don't know for sure because and I don't say anything to anyone because I'm like freaking terrified. So then I start, let's see, it was in November of 2013. We were preparing for our students' Christmas recital. And this as a cliffhanger, I started, I perceivably passed out for the first time in November 2013 and didn't know what was wrong. Didn't know that it wasn't just passing out. That it was
pretty crazy by itself that you were passing out.
But it wasn't normal. It wasn't normal passing out, and I had the definition.
I remember being around your family and like, oh, she's passing out. Like they were treating it like it was so normal. I'm like, this sounds serious. People don't just pass out. Like, why are we not treating this more seriously? I was very confused and upset about it.
But again, this goes back to the medical neglect. We just and the whitewashing of serious things. Like we didn't take this. I mean, we took it seriously because we kind of had to because I made a public spectacle of myself. On accident. It wasn't like I intended to do it. We were outside a Bright Lights meeting. One of my sisters was a Bright Lights leader. And so we had a group. And I remember the lights started feeling really weird. I'm like, my eyes feel really weird. And I was like, I don't feel right. I started feeling nauseous. Those aren't typical signs of passing out. I've blacked out.
So what did you actually have?
It was it's a certain type of seizure.
You're having seizures.
I was having seizures, and the reason it's so hard to another sibling who has these same symptoms, who has exhibited the same exactly down to the last detail, exactly what I was doing, is on seizure medication. But you have to know what you're looking for
Right.
because these are stress
you
or
even-
trauma-induced seizures that are so micro.
You even went to many doctors and they didn't know
Okay,
what the heck was going on.
I pass out. We're like, okay. I go to the emergency room, and they diagnose me with tachycardia and dehydration. And they're like, oh, that's normal. Okay, so like 2 weeks later, I'm at my student's Christmas recital, okay? And in front of the entire audience, I'm standing up at the stage, I collapse. I'm horrified because I'm like, I was not wanting to do this at this point. And they weren't going to take me to the emergency room. The only reason they did was one of the students' moms was a nurse. And she was like, you need to take her to the ER right now. This is serious.
Yeah.
There is something wrong with her. You don't mess with this.
Yeah.
Like, she was very adamant. She's like, I know there is something wrong here. So I got carried out because I'd lost, okay, normal passing out, you're unconscious, right? Completely unconscious. I was still conscious to some extent. I just had no control over any of my muscles.
Right. So your body was seized.
I'm
It was seized up.
I would shake. I would do this. I would get really cold. I get really pale.
But you're still conscious.
And I was still conscious. I just couldn't open my eyes. So people thought I was asleep. I was not asleep, and I heard a lot of what went on around me. When people thought I would be out for like 20 to 30 minutes, which is classic for these types of seizures. I'll have to figure out. I'll have to go find the because I did find them, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I was happening. And I thought I was having seizures, but no one believed me. No one took me seriously. So we go to the ER, and they're like, don't bother bringing her back. Okay.
So the doctors weren't much help either.
The doctors were not much help. They told me she's got tachycardia, which they're like, you can live with that as a teenager. There's nothing wrong with that. I was just 18 years old, and they're like, we can put you on some medication. And I'm like, that's their solution? Is medication?
It's their solution for everything.
I'm like,
It makes them
I want
money.
to get to the root problem. I was like, why is this? Yeah, and that's why people say that Grey's Anatomy is so popular is because
That's why I can't watch Grey's Anatomy.
well, they say that's Grey's Anatomy is like
too disturbing. It's too real life.
it's a fantasy. Well, there's some of it. It's a fantasy for the American healthcare system where doctors actually take the time to get to the root problem and don't just send you somewhere else.
Well, just the whole lack of care that they have for their patients is too disturbing for me because I don't want to know that.
Yeah.
That's
There's
what
some
bothered me, how they basically hate their patients and don't care about anyone.
like Derek Shepherd is like the dream doctor where he's like, we're going to find out.
Okay,
Or Miranda Bailey.
Well, he just seemed fake, so I've never seen a doctor like him before.
Or Miranda Bailey. She's like,
But man, I couldn't stand the main character. What was her name?
oh,
She was,
Meredith Grey.
yeah, she was awful. I'd hate to have her as a doctor.
That's why it's called.
I even liked House better. I'd rather have him as my doctor. He was funny.
But yeah, I watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy because I was like, they actually take the time to listen to their patients and get to the root problem. And also, Meredith Grey was a train wreck, and I related with being a train wreck. Had problems with her mom and her dad. So I'm sent home, no idea what to do, and you'll find out what we did.
You'll never believe what happens next. Give us a foreshadow. What dramatic words can you throw together?
Cardiologist told me there was something wrong, but they didn't know what it was. And also, my mom gave me, I don't know how
And
many.
the truth will shock you. You have like 3 like really crazy things. And my mom was poisoning me.
My mom thought it was all in my head. At least aspects of this was in my head, and gave me a bunch of.
I was
natural
dying and
sleep.
no one believed me.
Yeah, I was dying and no one believed me. No, seriously.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm trying to help you get.
I know. That's really good. That's really good. Yeah, that's basically what happened. And yeah, I was dying.
Find out if she lives or dies in the next episode.